Right, welcome back to News in Focus. Sudan's military says it has broken a nearly 2-year siege by the paramilitary rapid support forces on a key town in the Kordofan region, gaining control over major supply lines. In a statement late on Monday, the military said it had opened a road leading to South Kordofan's province, Diling town. There was no immediate such comment from the RSF, which has been at war with the army for control of Sudan for nearly 3 years. Now, at the same time, this is presenting an opportunity for the Sudanese Armed Forces and its General Abdel Fattah Al-Burhan to meet with regional players like Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, in terms of assisting the Sudanese government. Joining me now, I'd like to welcome Ramadan Ahmed, who is the editor of SudanHorizon.com, an online newsletter focused on Sudanese affairs. Ramadan, always good to have you on. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm very happy to be hosted by you.
No problem. It's always a pleasure. Ramadan, how important was this seizing of a town in the Kordofan region?
This is, it is beyond expression actually, because the city of Diling has been besieged for almost 2.5 years. And people have been suffering a lot. Some of them died out of hunger. Some of them died of eating wrong herbs. And some of children died out of malnutrition. So it is, the situation there was horrible, horrible in the strict sense of the term. So the fact that the army has managed to break the siege for the people of Diling, it means a lot. It means a lot. Now the city is open for aid because previously RSF has prohibited any aid to enter the city, and people have been starving. All the shelves have dried up. No any kind of supplies were allowed to enter the city through the official roads. Some people used to smuggle products into their city by night or by using very dangerous roads. Some of them actually got killed when they were discovered by the RSF, unfortunately. But today, it means a lot that Diling has been opened, and now aid can enter. Different commodities, trucks with different commodities can be allowed into the city now.
Ramadan, of course, the footage we are seeing there is, of course, file footage from, I think it was in the Al Ain neighborhood. And obviously, we know the depth of Sudan and the landscape of Sudan. But, you know, we've been speaking at Ramadan, a last conversation we had, of course, of what happened in Al-Fasher and just the atrocities that have been happening there. When we look at what the Sudanese army is doing now, do we see gains happening from them in terms of taking key areas which have been held by the RSF?
No, definitely the Sudanese army and the popular resistance have been operating very well over the last 3 weeks, and they have taken over so many villages, towns in Kordofan. One of the major places was a place called Habila. Habila is the corridor to Diling city, and it has been taken by the army. And so many, even in Darfur itself, the army is operating there, and it has been gaining ground so well. At the moment, RSF has been confined to certain places. I cannot say places of its control because it can't have control. It is spread. It is spread across Kordofan and Darfur region. But now the army is doing very well. And the break of the siege over Diling is one of the proofs, very clear that the army is going very well. And it was very difficult. It was not easy actually for the army to do that. Army lost a lot in order to break the siege over Diling. So I can confirm that the army and the popular resistance are doing very well.
Ramadan, I just want to go to a few security phase classification reports. So in November, it reported that there was no famine, or they did not declare famine at the time of dealing. But then, of course, this was in November, and now we are here at this moment. And a UN-backed assessment already confirmed that there was famine in Kandugli, which has been on the RSF siege for more than a year and a half. So I think what we're seeing here, and of course this is based on United Nations reports and of course other various organizations who have been reporting on this, any of the major areas where the RSF have gone to, it's quite clear that we are seeing some sort of evidence of war crimes being committed, whether it's rape, whether it's mass killings, or whether it's man-made famines that are occurring in these areas.
Yeah, the city of Kadugli that you mentioned is about 130 kilometers from Deleng. It is not that far. Both the cities, Deleng and Kadugli, have been under siege for the last 2.5 years. Possibly, Kadugli has been open to other areas controlled by the SPLA, that is Sudan Liberation Movement, North, which is part of the South Sudanese military group that at the end of the day managed to secede with South Sudan. So SPLA has been operating in the Nuba Mountains, which Delhi is the capital of South Kordofan state. So the city has been besieged by the SPLA, and after the SPLA and RSF signed some kind of collaboration agreement, and now they are operating together, then their forces combined imposed siege on the two cities. But the fact that Deleng was not part of the areas or near the areas controlled by SPLA, it was the siege was complete, absolutely complete. Kadugli used to receive some commodities from South Sudan through SPLA, and people used to trade like that. So the siege was not that strict, but still commodities were scarce because all the shelves have dried up in Kadugli. Deleng is now out. Kadugli is on its way also. RSF and SPLA are trying their best to take control of Kadugli, and they tried so many times. It was last week that they attacked a nearby village called Wake, and they got repelled. The army cracked down upon them and confiscated so many weapons and the arms from them. The attempts were there, but the army stood its ground and managed to chase them away. But I think the fact that Deleng now is under control of the army, meaning that he's part of the control of the government, it is possible that Kadugli will be fully liberated, possibly this or next week. Meaning that the siege will be removed completely, yes.
Ramadan, as we speak right now, and it of course leads to my next question, all of these areas that we're mentioning right now is very close to Khartoum. And of course, everyone knows its key logistical area where it is, especially when we talk about the port of Al-Ubaid. What does this significantly tell us in terms of the work that the Sudanese Armed Forces are doing in trying to make sure that when we speak of Khartoum, it still remains within their hands?
No, that's not correct. Khartoum is very, very far. It's about more than 700 or 800 kilometers from where we're talking now.
No, I'm talking about North Kordofan. If I stand to be corrected, yes, is it? Yeah. So I was talking about obviously the towns. I'm leading it up to Khartoum. So obviously where North Kordofan is, it leads up to Khartoum. That's where I was getting at, Ramadan.
Yes, Al-Ubaid is the capital of the Grand Kordofan. Kordofan used to be a province comprising West Kordofan State, North Kordofan State, and South Kordofan State. So these three places were one province before they were separated into states. So now we are talking, when we talk about Delany and Kadugli, we are talking about South Kordofan. And South Kordofan is not under the control of RSF, but it is besieged by the RSF. West Kordofan, yes, and is under control of the RSF. And there was a talk that Al-Ubaid was going to be overtaken by, controlled by RSF, but that is now very far-fetched, given that Delany now is under control of the army, and the army is moving towards Kadugli. So Khartoum definitely is far away. It's about close to 1,000 kilometers from Al-Ubaid. But there is part of the question, the first question that I didn't allude to, which you mentioned that whenever RSF entered a place, there is massacres, genocides, and all. And this is absolutely true, given the experience on the ground.
Ramadan, sorry, I have to stop. I have to stop you there because we have to go to a break. But when we do continue the conversation, we're going to be focusing on General Abdel Fattah Al-Burhan, and he's been touring many nations within the Gulf and the Middle East to get their support in terms of the current civil war happening in Sudan. Do stay tuned. Welcome back to News in Focus. I'm still in conversation with Ramadan Ahmed, who is the editor of SudanHorizon.com. Now, what we saw at the end of last year and towards the start of this year, and of course this is far away from Sudan, we're talking about Yemen, and the battle there when it came to, of course, the United Arab Emirates, which of course backed the Southern Transitional Council, and of course the Yemeni government, which receives backing from Saudi Arabia. Now, how does this tie into where we are in Sudan? Of course, we know that RSF, or there have been allegations with the RSF, that the United Arab Emirates is backing the RSF. And what does this now mean for the Sudanese Armed Forces? Well, they're going to go and they're going to speak to, for example, countries who are right now not on the best of speaking terms with the United Arab Emirates, and one of them is Saudi Arabia. Ramadan, when we look at what is currently happening in Yemen, and obviously the strained ties between Riyadh and Abu Dhabi, is this the perfect time for General Al-Burhan to go to Saudi Arabia and really convince them to back the Sudanese Armed Forces, I beg your pardon, in this current civil war right now?
Yeah, definitely the geopolitical transformation in the region has overshadowed what's happening in Sudan. And I think this is a high time for the Sudanese government to reconnect with the governments which used to be reluctant to support Sudan or the armed forces, namely the Egyptian government and Saudi governments. I cannot say that Saudi has changed its position, but I think Saudi Arabia has positioned itself in the right place. Thanks to the developments that took place in Yemen, Saudi Arabia has come to realize that all the works that the United Arab Emirates has been doing is completely against its interests. And that's why it was very swift when it comes to its action against what were the Emirates doing in Yemen. The UAE was supporting the secessionists, the separatists in Yemen, the South Yemen, and I think Saudi Arabia has come to realize that the UAE was working behind its back and supporting the separatists. That's why it was very decisive and very quick, and it had to bomb the ships that were smuggling arms to the separatists, the South Yemenis separatists. And within 24 hours, the UAE was ordered to get out of Yemen, which it did in 8 hours instead. So I think all these developments and the fact that UAE and Saudi Arabia now are in loggerheads, all come in favor actually of Sudan. So the atmosphere now is I mean, the road is paved and the atmosphere is conducive. Now Al-Burhan does not need to go and convince the Saudis, as you asked, but it is the Saudis who have come to realize that they need to do something towards Sudan in order for them to diffuse all the work that UAE has been doing. At the moment, the planes that have been flying arms and all the logistics to RSF through Libya have been blocked. Egypt also have come to realize that it is high time for it to do something about what's going on in Sudan, or otherwise it would pay a price very heavily. So both the countries are working together in order to support Sudan. Qatar has always been in support of Sudan. So now in the Arab region generally, we have two views. One view is supporting secessionist groups, like what happens in Yemen, in Sudan, RSF, and in Libya, the Haftar, in Syria, the Qasd group, and also in Lebanon. So in all these countries, UAE is supporting separatists who are destabilizing the state. The other view is supporting the stability of the governments that are there in place, so that you prevent any kind of chaos. So Saudi has come to realize that this is the trend that should be supported. So we have two views. The first view is supported by Zionism. The Zionists in the region that do not want any stability, and so that they can be able to fish in disturbed waters.
Ramadan,
and this is their
Ramadan,
yes.
I want to come there because what we're seeing right now, and I guess this is a global sort of take on this, when you look at the United Arab Emirates' relationship with Israel right now, it's very strong. The rest of the Arab world looks at it and feels a slight bit uncomfortable, some of them to a certain extent. I look at Saudi Arabia, and I've been listening to Farhan bin Saud, the foreign minister of Saudi Arabia, and of course Mohammed bin Salman, and their tone seems to be very different to what it was maybe a year and a half ago, which doesn't seem to be moving towards what the Israelis want to hear, and definitely not sounding towards what the United States of America wants to hear. And for me, that really seems like Saudi Arabia is changing its shift, especially when it comes to the geopolitical aspect. How does Sudan, and I asked it earlier on, this can only be a good thing for Sudan in terms of leveraging, especially when we look at the RSF and the support it gets.
What is going on in the region, in fact, is something major. It is even more than what is called the Arab Spring. The Arab Spring happened when people took to streets demonstrating, and maybe some chaos here and there. But what happens now is something far more than the Arab Spring. Some countries in the region have been reluctant. They didn't want to buy into the narrative of the Zionist state, but they were just reluctant. But now the position of the Saudi Arabia and the fact that it has been exposed to a lot of criticism and attacks by the Zionist state, and given that the policy now it is adopting is completely against what the Israeli state wants. So that fact actually has encouraged so many countries now to air their views openly instead of doing it reluctantly. At the moment, while I'm talking to you now, there is a new alliance in the shaping between Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Turkey, and Pakistan. There are two countries are likely to join us, Algeria and Iran. Now, if this alliance comes to is formed officially, I think it is going to have a tremendous impact on the geopolitics of the region. Definitely, this will have a positive impact on what is going on in Sudan, because the view of this new bloc is to support the stability of the states in the region and not to support any separatist tendencies in the region.
Ramadan, I read an article by Abid Hussein. He wrote this now just in the middle of this month. And obviously, there seems to be a potential arms deal that could happen between Pakistan and, of course, the Sudanese government. Now, we don't know what is going to be within this arms deal, whether it's fighter aircraft, whether it's other sort of weapons. But if this deal does go through, and from what we're reading, this could also be done through a strategic mutual defense agreement. And of course, Saudi Arabia seems to be playing quite a large role in this. Would this change the outlook of the civil war in terms of it being in favor of the Sudanese Armed Forces against the RSF?
The agreement is not officially announced, but it is widely spoken about. And we have an Arab proverb which says, if the wood doesn't have a crack, it doesn't make noise. So I think that kind of agreement between Pakistan and Sudan, funded by Saudi Arabia, I think it is most likely true, although it is not officially announced. When it comes to the details of it, definitely we don't have the details, of course, but it might have happened. And if that is true, then definitely it will have a very positive impact on the performance of the Sudanese army on the ground. And I think we have already seen that already in Kordofan and even in Darfur. At the moment, the army is moving very well in Darfur, apart from what's happening in Kordofan. And also, there is another front which is just recently opened in the southeastern frontier with Ethiopia. And the army did very well and repelled the attackers. So I think the support from outside, whether from the Pakistan or from other countries, the impact of it is visible on the ground. So it is doing very well.
Ramadan Ahmed, always good having you on. Shukran so much for joining us. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
That's Ramadan Ahmed, editor of SudanHorizon.com online newsletter focus on Sudanese affairs. Well, that's all we have for you on News in Focus. I will see you again tomorrow from myself, Ross Patel, and the rest of the team in Johannesburg. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.